There is a kind of woman who walks into a room and does not demand attention. She does not need to. The room just shifts. The energy lifts. People smile without knowing why. Conversations feel warmer. The air itself seems to relax. You have met this woman before, maybe once, maybe only in passing, and you walked away thinking, there is something about her. You could not name it, you just felt it. That is Kika Cerqueira Gomes. Welcome to Liz Essence. I am Liz, and today we are talking about the woman who has quietly become one of the most magnetic presences in the world of Formula One. And honestly, we are talking about what she carries, how she moves through the world, what she represents, and more importantly, what we can learn from a woman who does not try hard and yet somehow wins every single room she enters. This is the Golden Girl effect, and it is more layered than it looks. Let us start at the surface, because the surface matters. When you first see Kika, the word that comes immediately is warmth. Not the performed kind, not the girl who smiles too wide in photos or works overtime to seem approachable. Kika has this natural, almost effortless glow. She looks like golden hour. She looks like the kind of afternoon you never want to end. Her aesthetic is soft glam, with a naturalness underneath it, like beauty that is not trying to convince you of anything. And that is the first lesson, because warmth is not just a personality trait, it is a presentation. It is in the colors you wear, the way you carry your shoulders, the softness in your eyes, even in photographs. Kika understands this without making it a project. That is the difference. Now here is what most people miss when they look at someone like Kika. They see the surface and they think, oh, she is just pretty and likable. That is easy for her. But likability at this level is not accidental. There is a science to immediate emotional ease, and Kika has mastered it in a way that feels completely unforced. When people feel immediately comfortable around a woman, it is because she is not projecting threat. She is not competing. She is not sending signals that say, look how special I am. She is sending something quieter and far more powerful. She is saying, you are safe here. And that signal, that specific frequency, is addictive. People will come back to it again and again without even understanding why. Think about the women in your own life who have this quality. You want to be near them. You feel better after conversations with them. You remember them long after you have left the room. That is not love. That is a specific kind of emotional intelligence, and Kika embodies it completely. But here is where it gets interesting, because Kika is not all softness. If she were, she would be forgettable. There is something underneath the warmth, a quiet layer of mystery that keeps you curious. She does not overshare. She does not explain herself constantly. She moves through public life with this beautiful restraint that makes you lean in. You want to know more. You feel like you are always getting a beautiful glimpse, but never the full picture. And that feeling keeps people emotionally invested in a way that full transparency never could. This is the balance that very few women manage to get right. Too closed off and you feel cold, unreachable, intimidating in a way that pushes people away rather than drawing them in. Too open, too available, too eager to be understood, and you remove all mystery. You become known in a way that removes the magic. Kika lives in the perfect space between those two extremes. She feels reachable, she feels warm and real, and yet there is always something just slightly beyond the frame. That combination is rare. It is also deeply compelling. Now let us talk about her energy, because energy is not something you perform. It is something you regulate. Kika's energy signature is light, approachable, and subtly playful. She does not take herself too seriously, and that is actually a form of confidence. Women who are deeply secure do not need the weight of constant seriousness to signal that they matter. They can be light, they can laugh easily, they can be present in a moment without turning every moment into a statement about who they are. Kika does this beautifully. She seems genuinely joyful, genuinely easy to be around, and that ease is contagious. It is also, from a relationship perspective, incredibly attractive. Think about what it feels like to be around someone who is relaxed. Your own nervous system responds. You relax too. There is no tension to navigate, no eggshells to avoid, no performance being demanded of you. You can just be. That is what Kika offers the people around her, and it is one of the most underrated qualities a woman can develop. The ability to make others feel safe, seen, and completely at ease in your presence. That is not a small thing. That is the entire foundation of deep connection. And then there is the aesthetic, because we cannot talk about Kika without acknowledging how she has built a visual language that perfectly supports everything she is. Soft glam, natural beauty, fluid femininity. These are not just style choices, they are communication. Every visual choice she makes reinforces the same message. I am beautiful, but I am not hard. I am put together, but I am not rigid. I am feminine in a way that flows, that moves, that breathes. There is no severity in her look. There is no armor. She presents herself as open, as golden, as warm. And that consistency between who she seems to be and how she shows up visually is part of why she feels so trustworthy, so easy to like. Here's something worth sitting with. One of the reasons Kika resonates so broadly is that she has figured out how to be desirable without triggering the defenses that desirability often activates in other women. There are women who are beautiful in a way that makes other women feel less than. There are women whose aesthetic is a challenge, a competition, a standard that feels impossible. Kika is not that. Her beauty feels generous rather than exclusive. It feels like an invitation rather than a verdict. Other women look at her and feel inspired rather than diminished. And that is not an accident. That is an energy she has cultivated, consciously or not, and it is one of her greatest gifts. From a masculine perspective, the effect is equally specific. She reads as special, but not untouchable, elevated, but not cold. The kind of woman a man feels genuinely comfortable around, which is rarer than people think. A lot of beautiful women, through no fault of their own, create an atmosphere of tension. Men feel like they have to perform, to impress, to earn the right to be present. Kika does not create that pressure. She creates comfort, and comfort is actually what most people are searching for underneath all the surface attraction. Comfort is what keeps someone coming back. Comfort is what builds something real. So what is the actual lesson here for women who want to embody something similar? Because I think Kika, whether she knows it or not, is teaching something very specific. The first thing is this: softness is not weakness. Softness is actually a form of power so refined that most people underestimate it completely. The world will tell you to be sharp, to be assertive, to take up space loudly, and there is a time for all of that. But a woman who has mastered softness, who can be warm and open and genuinely easy to be around, that woman is doing something that takes enormous inner security. You can only be soft when you are not afraid. You can only be warm without agenda when you are not desperate. Softness at this level is the result of a woman who is deeply okay within herself, and that is what makes it magnetic. The second thing is, ease is a practice. Kika's lightness did not come from a perfect life or an absence of difficulty. It comes from a relationship with herself that allows her to move through the world without carrying unnecessary weight. She does not appear to be burdened by the need to prove herself. She is not performing for approval. She is just present, and presence, real presence, is one of the most attractive qualities a human being can have. The third thing is, mystery is not distance. You do not have to close yourself off to be intriguing. You just have to resist the urge to explain everything, to fill every silence, to make sure everyone fully understands you at all times. There is beauty in being a little bit beyond full comprehension. There is beauty in having an inner life that does not always make it to the surface. That restraint, that sense of depth not fully shown, is what keeps people curious about you long after the first impression has settled. And the fourth thing, and maybe the most important one, is this: your aesthetic and your energy must speak the same language. Kika's warmth is not just in her personality. It is in how she looks, what she wears, the way she presents herself to the world. When those things are aligned, when who you are on the inside is reflected clearly on the outside, you stop performing and you start inhabiting yourself. And a woman who fully inhabits herself is one of the most beautiful things you will ever see. Kika Cerqueira Gomes is not famous because she is beautiful. She is magnetic because she is whole. She is the golden girl, not because of her look, but because of her light. And that light comes from a very specific kind of self-possession, a quiet certainty, a settled joy, an ease that does not borrow from anyone else's approval. That is what she is really showing us. That is the actual effect. If you are working on yourself, on your femininity, on how you show up in rooms and in relationships, the question is not, how do I become more like Kika? The question is, where in your own life are you resisting ease? Where are you carrying tension that was never yours to hold? Where are you performing when you could simply be present? Because the golden girl energy is not something you wear. It is something you uncover. It is what is left when you stop fighting yourself. I hope this one stayed with you. I will see you in the next one.